The night sky above Earth looked normal. Stars blinked quietly over cities and oceans. But far beyond human eyes, something huge was moving. A fleet of warships as large as mountains slipped out of the dark between stars. Their hulls were black metal. Their weapons glowed faint blue. This was the Imperial Armada, the strongest force of an empire that ruled hundreds of worlds. They had crushed alien civilizations for centuries. They thought Earth would be easy. The first ship in the fleet opened a channel. No one on Earth could hear the words, but satellites caught the strange signal. It said, "Target world located. Resistance expected to be minimal." Inside the ship, alien commanders stood tall with silver armor. Their eyes were cold. They had never lost a war. They had no fear of a small blue planet circling a small yellow star. On Earth, people went about their night. A fisherman on the coast saw a line of strange lights rising from the horizon. A farmer in a field felt a low rumble under his boots. Air traffic controllers in many countries lost contact with planes for a few seconds. At first no one knew what was happening. But then telescopes picked up the fleet. Pictures spread on social media. At first people thought it was fake. Then the fear began. Above the atmosphere, the Imperial Armada prepared to strike. Massive carriers released clouds of drones shaped like knives. Their engines hissed with silent fire. Alien soldiers loaded their weapons. They were sure the humans would fall. Earth's defense systems were old. Its armies were divided. This would be fast, clean, and final. But something strange happened. As soon as the first alien ship entered low orbit, its sensors started to fail. The blue glow of its weapons flickered. Its shields bent as if under invisible pressure. Alarms rang in alien languages. Commanders barked orders. No one understood what was wrong. Their technology had never failed like this. Down on Earth, a hidden network came alive. Deep under mountains, in secret bases, human scientists and soldiers had been waiting. For decades they had worked on something never shown to the public. They had seen the signals of the Empire long before the invasion. They had built a defense that no alien had ever faced. It was not a missile, not a laser, but a strange field that bent the very rules of physics. The project was called Aegis Dawn, and tonight it was awake. The fisherman on the coast saw the sky ripple like water. The farmer felt the ground vibrate like a drum. Across the planet, huge towers hidden in plain sight began to glow. Power surged through underground grids. In orbit, the Imperial Armada found itself caught in a web it could not see. The first alien ship tried to fire. Its main cannon charged, then exploded from inside. Pieces of black metal fell like burning rain into the ocean. Drones lost control and spun into each other. The fleet broke formation. In the command ship, a high lord of the Empire stared at his screens. "Impossible," he whispered. "This world is primitive." On every channel, news spread, Earth was under attack. Governments broadcast emergency messages. People hid in basements and shelters. Yet, at the same time, strange hope rose. Videos appeared online showing alien ships burning in the sky. Soldiers on the ground saw no enemy landing. Instead they saw streaks of light shooting upward from hidden launch bays. The hidden human fleet rose from under the oceans. Submarines split open to reveal sleek craft with silver hulls. Jets faster than sound punched through the clouds. For the first time, humanity was united. Borders meant nothing. Every army answered one command center buried deep under the Himalayas. No one outside had ever known it existed. Inside that command center, a woman in a plain uniform watched the screens. Her name was Captain Marin Cole. She had led the Aegis Dawn project since she was 20. Now she was 35, and the moment had come. Her voice was calm as she gave the order, "Engage Phase 2. Around her, technicians moved like parts of a single machine. In orbit, energy beams invisible to the human eye ripped through the alien fleet. Their shields collapsed like glass. Whole carriers vanished in white flashes. The Empire's warships tried to jump back into hyperspace, but their drives would not start. Whatever field Earth had built locked them in normal space. They were trapped. The fisherman on the coast saw the sky brighten as if dawn had come early. The farmer in the field heard a deep thunder like the end of the world. Across Earth, people realized the invaders were not winning. For the first time in history, humanity was not the victim. Humanity was the force that made the stars shake. In the command ship of the Imperial Armada, silence fell. The High Lord looked at his officers. None spoke. Outside the windows, their fleet was dying. The blue planet below seemed to glow with hidden power. They had underestimated it. They had underestimated the small creatures called humans. And somewhere deep under the mountains, Captain Marin Cole whispered to herself, "You should not have come here." The invasion had begun. But the Empire had no idea that Earth was not just defending itself. Something far larger was waiting. Above Earth the battle raged, but something stranger than battle was starting. The Imperial Armada, once endless and perfect, was breaking apart. Fire rolled across black metal. Drones fell like meteors. Alien voices screamed on open channels. Yet below, on Earth, the skies stayed clear. Cities stood untouched. It was as if the invaders were fighting ghosts. Captain Marin Cole stood inside the underground command center. Her eyes did not leave the screens. Around her, dozens of operators tracked targets, guided weapons, and watched the alien fleet burn. Yet she did not smile. She knew this was only the first wave. The Empire never sent just one armada. In the flagship of the Imperial Armada, the High Lord pressed a clawed hand to the glass. The blue planet glowed with invisible power. "What have you done?" he muttered. He gave an order in his own language. A hidden device inside the flagship began to pulse. It sent a signal far beyond this star. A call for help. A warning. A challenge. Far under the oceans, the hidden human fleet moved. Submersible hangars opened, releasing strange craft shaped like arrows. They glowed with a soft silver light. These were the Sentinel wings, built in secret for decades. No one on the surface had ever seen them. Now they rose into the sky like a swarm of ghosts. People across the world watched the live feeds. On phones, on giant screens in city squares, on the dashboards of cars. They saw alien ships explode and vanish. They saw silver shapes rising from the seas. They did not know what these new shapes were. Some thought it was alien reinforcements. Others whispered that humanity had hidden angels under the water. Fear mixed with hope. The fisherman on the coast held his breath as one silver craft passed low above him, leaving no sound. The farmer in the field fell to his knees as 3 alien drones burst into fire overhead. Children in a refugee camp stared at the sky and cheered when a burning warship broke apart like a falling star. Inside the command center, alarms flashed red. One of Marin Cole's officers turned. "Captain, they're transmitting," he said. "A tight beam message. We don't know who it's for." "Track it," she ordered. "Trace the path." A moment later the officer looked pale. "It's leaving the system. Faster than light. It's going to their home sectors." Marin Cole felt a cold weight in her chest. The Empire would not stop. This was not just an invasion. This was the beginning of a larger war. "Phase 3, she asked. "Ready," said another officer. "But we don't know what it will do to the planet's field." "We don't have a choice," she said. Above Earth, the Sentinel wings climbed into orbit. They did not fire weapons. Instead, they opened like flowers. A soft white glow spread between them, forming a lattice around the planet. The alien ships struck at the lattice with their remaining guns. The shots vanished like stones thrown into water. The lattice grew brighter. For the first time, alien scanners showed something they could not understand. A sphere of energy wrapping the entire world. The High Lord on the flagship bared his teeth. Primitive animals, he hissed. He ordered his ship to dive toward the planet, hoping to break through by speed. But as soon as the flagship touched the edge of the lattice, its engines died. The ship spun helplessly, trapped like an insect in a web. On Earth, every screen flickered. News anchors spoke in shaking voices. "The alien flagship has been stopped," one said. "We are witnessing something impossible." People poured into the streets to watch the sky. Fear began to change into something else. Not just hope, power. For the first time, humanity looked up and saw itself as strong. Deep inside the command center, Marin Cole whispered to herself, "Hold, hold!" She knew the lattice would not last long. It drank power like a black hole. If it failed too soon, the aliens could break through. If it held, the entire Armada might be captured at once. It was a gamble with the whole world at stake. In the flagship, the High Lord turned to his second. "Send the code," he said. The second officer hesitated. "The code? That will." "Send it," the High Lord roared. The officer obeyed. Somewhere deep inside the alien fleet, hidden warheads woke up. They were not aimed at Earth. They were aimed at themselves. The Empire would rather burn its own fleet than let it be captured. On the screens in the command center, Marin Cole saw it. A pattern of lights. A countdown. Her heart hammered. "They're going to self-destruct," she said. "Pull back the Sentinel wings. Phase 4. Now." Above Earth, the silver lattice began to twist. It folded in on itself, pulling the alien ships inward like a tide. One by one, the warships vanished, not in fire but in silence. They were not destroyed. They were being taken somewhere else, a place no alien had ever been. A trap hidden beyond space. The fisherman on the coast saw the sky clear. The farmer in the field felt the rumble fade. Across the planet, people looked up and saw nothing. The invasion fleet was gone. Not a single alien ship remained in orbit. Only faint streaks of silver light sank back into the oceans. Inside the command center, the lights flickered and died. Backup power came on. Marin Cole stood very still. "Status?" she asked. "Fleet vanished," an officer said. "Our lattice is offline. Phase 4 complete." "Where did we send them?" another asked in a quiet voice. "No one knows," Marin Cole said. "And we'd better pray it holds." Far away, in the dark between stars, the alien fleet opened its eyes. They were no longer near Earth. They were somewhere else. A black void with no stars, no exit, no time. The High Lord stared into the emptiness and felt fear for the first time in his life. "What are these humans?" he whispered. On Earth, people began to cheer. But above the cheers, some whispered a new question. If humans could do this to an empire, what else were they hiding? And how far would they go? The invasion was over. But the war had just begun. The sky above Earth was clear again, but a strange silence hung over the planet. People in every country stood outside, staring upward, waiting for another flash of light. They had seen a fleet vanish like smoke. They had seen silver machines rise from the oceans. And they had heard no explanation. News anchors repeated the same question again and again. Where did the invaders go? Deep under the Himalayas, the command center glowed with emergency lights. Captain Marin Cole had not left her chair. Around her, officers whispered, checked data, and stared at blank screens. The lattice that had captured the alien Armada was gone. The power grids were cooling down. But there was no sign of the captured fleet. It had disappeared into nothing. Marin pressed her palm against the table. "They're not destroyed," she said softly. "They're only moved." "Moved where?" an officer asked. "I don't know." Far from Earth, in the black void, the Imperial Armada floated like lost ships in a storm. No stars, no planets, only a deep, endless dark. The High Lord of the Empire stood at the front of the flagship. His claws dug into the metal rail. His fleet's drives were dead, weapons cold. "This is a prison," he said. They have cast us into a prison between worlds. Another officer trembled. High Lord, humans are a young race. They should not have this power. They do, the High Lord answered. And they will pay for it. On Earth, the world governments held emergency meetings. Screens showed Marin Cole's face again and again. People demanded answers. How had humanity hidden such weapons? How long had this project been alive? Conspiracy forums exploded. Some called her a hero. Others called her a danger. In a hospital in New York, the fisherman from the coast sat on a cot, still holding his old phone. He had filmed the silver craft rising from the sea. His video had been watched 1 billion times. A reporter asked him, "Do you know what you saw?" He shook his head. "I saw something impossible," he said quietly. In a small village, the farmer in the field told his children the same thing. The sky opened and ate them. Marin Cole knew the cheers would not last. Humanity had revealed its secret. There would be no hiding again. She stood and spoke to her team. "Prepare Phase 5, she said. A young officer looked up. Phase 5. Captain, we don't even know if Phase 4 succeeded. We may have just thrown an enemy fleet into hyperspace. Or worse, said another. Marin's eyes were hard. If the Empire survives, it will come back. And next time it will not underestimate us. Phase 5 is our only chance. In the void, the alien fleet drifted. Small fires burned inside some ships. Without stars for navigation, their crews were blind. Then, at the edge of the dark, a faint shimmer appeared, a hole of pale light. The High Lord felt his hearts beat faster. "A door," he whispered. "We will find a way out." He did not know that the door was not a way home. It was bait. Back on Earth, the silver craft, the Sentinel wings, had returned to their hidden hangars under the oceans. Engineers in pressure suits worked silently to repair them. The project called Aegis Dawn was now the world's worst-kept secret. People wanted to know what other machines slept under the sea and under the mountains. A child watching the news asked her father, "Are we safe now?" He hesitated. "For now," he said. "But we don't know what's coming next." Marin Cole walked alone into a smaller chamber inside the command center. The room was round, lined with screens showing star maps. At its center stood a single black console with no markings. She placed her hand on it. The console woke with a pulse of blue light. On the screen appeared words, Phase 5, Offensive Protocol. She whispered to herself, "We've been hiding for too long." Her second-in-command entered. "Captain, the Security Council wants to speak with you. They're demanding answers." "They'll have to wait," Marin said. "The Empire will send another Armada. We must be ready to move first." Far away, in the black void, the High Lord gathered his captains. "We have faced many enemies," he said. "We have burned worlds. But never have we been trapped. This is not the end. This is the beginning. We will tear open their prison, and we will descend upon them like fire." His voice shook, not with rage but with something new, fear mixed with awe. On Earth, night fell over the cities. But lights burned in the secret bases, and engineers worked without sleep. The Aegis Dawn network was changing, adapting, preparing for something no human had ever attempted, taking the war beyond the sky. If Phase 5 worked, humanity would not wait for the Empire to come back. Humanity would go to them. The fisherman on the coast sat by the water and watched the waves. He thought of the silent silver craft under the sea. The farmer in the field looked up at the stars, wondering if the aliens were still out there. Across the world, people felt the same mix of hope and dread. And deep under the mountains, Marin Cole looked at the star maps and whispered, "We are going to bring the fight to you." The invasion of Earth was over. But a new phase was beginning, a phase that would shake not just one empire but the entire galaxy. Dark clouds rolled over the oceans as storms built in strange patterns. Satellites showed the weather changing in ways no scientist could explain. It was not natural. It was the side effect of something deep below the water waking up. The world thought the battle was over, but the planet itself was still moving like a giant beast turning in its sleep. In the secret hangars under the sea, the sentinel wings were lined up like silver arrows. Engineers worked under harsh lights, pulling open panels, replacing power cores, checking strange blue crystals that pulsed like hearts. This was the hidden edge of humanity. It was no longer a secret, and it was not resting. Captain Marin Cole stood on a metal balcony high above the hangar floor. Her uniform was simple, but her presence made everyone straighten. She looked down at the machines and then at the wall of monitors showing world news. Protesters were outside bases. Governments were arguing. Some nations wanted to seize Aegis Dawn for themselves. Others demanded it be destroyed. She knew time was running out. "We cannot wait for them to come back," she said quietly. "We go to them." Her second-in-command, a man named Rafik, stepped closer. "The Security Council will never approve," he said. "They're terrified already." "They'll approve when the next fleet arrives," Marin said. "By then it will be too late." Far beyond Earth, in the black void where the Imperial Armada was trapped, the pale shimmer had grown brighter. It looked like a tear in space. Ships drifted closer, desperate for a way out. The High Lord watched from his flagship. His claws tapped the arm of his chair. He knew it might be a trap, but he also knew his fleet could not stay here forever. Supplies were running low. Crew morale was breaking. "Prepare the jump engines," he ordered. "When the door opens, we go through." "But High Lord," his officer began. "If this is a trap, we will tear it apart from inside," he hissed. Back on Earth, the world's first unified military council met under the Himalayas. Screens showed the black void, the trap holding the alien fleet, and next to it the star maps of the Empire. The room hummed with low voices. Generals, scientists and politicians sat together, many for the first time in history. All of them looked at Marin Cole. "You want to send human ships through your own trap?" one asked. "Yes," she said. "You don't know what's on the other side." "I know exactly what's on the other side," she said. "An enemy that will never stop until we stop it first." At the bottom of the ocean, enormous hatches opened. Water rushed into dark tunnels. Inside those tunnels waited not just the sentinel wings but larger craft shaped like long spears. They were called hammer ships. No public map showed them. They had been built in silence for decades. They were not defensive machines. They were built for attack. Across the planet, ordinary people watched footage leaked from the bases. The silver lattice, the silent machines, the giant hatches opening under the sea, it spread across every screen. Some people were afraid. Some were proud. Some were angry. But all of them understood something. Humanity was not small anymore. Marin Cole stood before her team. "The Empire thinks it can break free," she said. "It thinks we're afraid. But we're not. Phase 5 begins tonight." Her voice was calm but her eyes were hard. Engineers sealed the hammer ships. Pilots climbed into cockpits. The hangars thrummed as the ocean above shook. On the other side of the void, the High Lord's fleet moved toward the shimmering tier. He raised his arm. "Forward," he said. Engines lit up like dying stars. The first alien ship crossed the edge. It vanished. Then another. And another. Soon half the Armada was gone, swallowed by the light. In the command center under the mountains, alarms flashed. A technician shouted, "Captain, the prison is destabilizing. They're breaching the void." Marin's jaw tightened. "Are the hammer ships ready?" "Ready," Rafik said. "Then launch." From the deepest trenches of the oceans, the hammer ships rose. They broke through the surface like whales breaching, throwing water into the sky. Their hulls glowed a soft blue. Their engines roared with a sound no human had ever heard. One by one they climbed into the clouds, vanishing into the upper atmosphere. People on every coast saw them. Children pointed. Old men crossed themselves. In some cities people fell silent. In others they cheered. Humanity's hidden fleet was no longer a myth. It was real, and it was leaving Earth. Marin Cole watched the launch on her screen. She said only 3 words. "We go first." Inside the lead hammership, she strapped herself in. Around her the crew moved quickly, checking displays. "Destination locked," said Rafik over the intercom. "Phase 5 jump in 30 seconds. Outside the window, the blue Earth turned slowly. Marin took one last look at it. "Hold the line until we return," she whispered. Far away, the alien fleet poured into the shimmering tier. They thought they were escaping. They did not know human ships were already moving to meet them. The countdown reached 0. The hammerships flashed once, then vanished from Earth's sky, leaving only rolling thunder. People on the ground gasped. Humanity had stepped off its world for the first time, not as explorers but as hunters. In the black void, the High Lord's flagship emerged into a star-filled sky on the far side of the tear. For a heartbeat, relief swept through the alien crews. Then sensors screamed. New contacts appeared. Dozens of them. Not alien ships. Human ships. Waiting. Marin Cole's voice came over the comms, calm and cold. "Welcome to Phase 5. The Empire had come to conquer a small blue world. Now that world was coming for them." A silence fell over the alien fleet. Stars burned cold and sharp all around them. They had escaped the black void, but they had not escaped the humans. In front of the Imperial Armada floated the hammerships, dark and silent. Their hulls reflected starlight like blades. They did not move. They did not signal. They only waited. On the alien flagship, officers shouted in panic. "Unknown contacts. Weapons charging. Engines unstable." The High Lord stood frozen, staring at the shapes ahead. He had expected rescue. Instead, he saw a predator. "They followed us," he whispered. "They followed us into our own sky." Inside the lead hammership, Captain Marin Cole stood at the window. Her hands were clasped behind her back. Around her the crew worked in silence. She had promised herself she would never take war to another world. But the Empire had left her no choice. "Hold position," she said. "Do not fire until my order." Back on Earth, every screen in the command center flickered with live data from the hammerships. The Security Council watched with pale faces. Humanity's hidden fleet had crossed the stars in one jump. They were inside the Empire's own territory now, and the first battle of the new war was about to begin. In the alien fleet, smaller ships broke formation, panicked. Some turned their weapons outward. Others tried to turn away. But the void gates behind them had already closed. There was no escape. The High Lord raised his claw. "Fire!" he roared. Blue beams shot from the alien warships, crossing the darkness. Inside the hammerships, alarms rang. "Incoming fire," Rafik said. "Shields up," Marin answered. Invisible walls of energy snapped around the human craft. The blue beams struck and vanished like mist. The hammerships did not move. They did not flinch. They only waited. Marin's voice was steady. "Transmit message." A burst of sound and light shot from the hammerships to the alien fleet. It carried only 4 words, in the Empire's own language: "Leave or be broken." The High Lord hissed. "They dare." He ordered all guns to full power. The alien fleet opened fire with everything they had. The starlight turned blue as beams crossed and merged. The hammerships stayed still. Then, at Marin's quiet command, they moved. The hammerships surged forward as one, cutting through fire like knives through smoke. Their weapons were not beams or missiles. They were pulses of compressed gravity, silent and invisible. When they struck, alien ships crumpled like paper. Hulls bent inward. Engines folded. The first rank of the Imperial Armada vanished in a single breath. On Earth, people watching the feeds gasped. They had expected a fight. Instead they saw a slaughter. "We're not just defending," one anchor whispered. "We're winning." But inside the hammerships, Marin Cole did not smile. Her heart felt heavy. Each alien ship destroyed was thousands of lives lost. She had trained to defend Earth, not to kill without end. She gave another order. "Target engines only. Disable, not destroy." The weapons shifted. Now the pulses struck and the alien ships went dark but stayed whole. They drifted powerless, caught in the gravity fields of the hammerships. The Empire's fleet was being taken apart piece by piece, like claws clipped from a predator. On the alien flagship, the High Lord felt rage boil in his chest. He had never been hunted. He had never been powerless. "Summon the Guardians," he snarled. Officers stared at him in fear. "But High Lord, they are forbidden." "They are all we have left," he said. "Summon them now." Far below, on a planet ringed with silver towers, deep vaults opened. The Guardians, ancient machines older than the Empire itself, began to wake. They were not ships. They were living weapons built to fight in the dark between stars. And they were rising. Inside the hammerships, Rafik read new signals. "Captain, something is coming. Big. Very big." Marin's eyes narrowed. "Show me." On the screen appeared a shape like a mountain turning in space. It was not a ship. It was something else. "They had a reserve," she murmured. Of course they did. Back on Earth, the Security Council saw the same image. Fear spread across the room. "What is that?" someone asked. No one answered. In the alien fleet, the High Lord raised his head as the first Guardian arrived. Its body was black stone wrapped in metal veins. Its eyes burned like suns. It moved without engines, gliding on currents no human understood. The Empire had built it in its first wars and locked it away. Now it was awake. Marin Cole turned to her crew. "This is it," she said softly. "Phase 6 begins now." The hammerships formed a circle, their hulls glowing brighter. Energy fields laced between them, forming a pattern in space. They had trained for this but never tried it in combat. If it failed, they would all die. If it worked, the Guardians would face something even they had never seen. The fisherman on Earth, watching the live stream on his cracked phone, whispered, "Don't stop now." The farmer in the field stared at the same image and felt his heart pound. All over the planet, people leaned closer to screens, holding their breath. In the starfield, the Guardians moved closer. The hammerships moved to meet them. Two forces older than anyone guessed were about to collide. Humanity had gone from prey to predator. But now the predator was facing a legend. And somewhere deep in her chest, Marin Cole felt fear for the first time since the invasion began. She whispered one word to herself. Hold. The next heartbeat would decide the war. The stars themselves seemed to dim. Between the hammerships and the alien fleet, the first Guardian moved. It was bigger than a city, older than any empire, and its black metal skin shone with slow pulses of light. Weapons on both sides fell silent as every sensor went blind. Even sound inside the hammerships faded for a heartbeat. It was like staring at the shadow of a planet. Inside the lead hammership, Captain Marin Cole felt her throat go dry. She had read the old signals the Aegis Dawn project had intercepted, but she had never believed the rumors. "That's not a warship," she said softly. "That's a relic." Around her, the crew whispered. One young pilot crossed himself. On the alien flagship, the High Lord's eyes burned with a new kind of triumph. "The Guardians will end them," he said. "They were built to destroy the destroyers." But even as he spoke, a tremor of fear crept into his voice. The Guardians had been sealed for ages because even the Empire feared them. Back on Earth, billions watched their screens as the feed flickered with static. People saw only a black shape blocking out the stars. News anchors spoke in whispers. Children covered their ears. The fisherman on the coast muttered, "It's like a god." The farmer in the field whispered, We should not have come here. Inside the hammerships, Marin Cole gave a single order: begin the weave. The hammerships spread apart like points of a star. Energy beams invisible to the human eye linked them together, forming a glowing pattern in space. It was a shield, a weapon, and a doorway all at once, the heart of Phase 6. The Guardian opened its mouth. No sound came, but space rippled like water. One of the hammerships flickered, shields bending. Its hull cracked as if crushed by invisible hands. Shields failing. Rafik shouted. Hold the weave. Marin barked. Do not break. The hammerships poured power into the pattern. Lines of blue light thickened. The void around them began to glow. The Guardian shifted, puzzled, its attacks sliding off like rain on glass. For the first time in its long existence, it had found something that resisted it. On the alien flagship, panic spread. High Lord, it's not working, an officer said. The humans are matching it. The High Lord's claws dug into the armrest. Then release them all, he growled. Across distant star vaults, more Guardians woke. On Earth, the command center's screens filled with new shapes. Huge black silhouettes crawling through space like living mountains. The Security Council fell silent. A scientist whispered, "We've unleashed a storm." In the hammerships, alarms screamed. Multiple Guardians inbound. Rafik said, "How many?" Marin asked. "More than we can count." Marin closed her eyes for a second. She remembered the faces of people on Earth, the children cheering at the sky, the silent hangars under the ocean. This was what Aegis Dawn had been built for, not to defend one world, but to stand between humanity and the dark. "Activate the core," she said. In the center of the weave, a sphere of white light appeared. It grew brighter, pulling power from every hammership. The crew felt their hair lift from static, their teeth ache from vibration. "Core at 70%, Rafik called. 80. 90. The first Guardian lunged. It struck the weave with claws of black energy. The sphere flared. A shockwave rippled outward, tossing the alien fleet like toys. One Guardian screamed, not in sound but in a low vibration that shook bones. Back on Earth, the fisherman's phone buzzed and died. The farmer's radio went silent. Around the planet, every screen showed only a white glow and then black. For a moment the whole world held its breath. Inside the weave, Marin Cole opened her eyes. "Fire," she said. The sphere of light collapsed inward and then exploded outward in silence. A net of energy shot across space, wrapping the first Guardian. It thrashed, its metal skin cracking, its eyes dimming. It was not destroyed, it was bound. The hammerships tightened the net, dragging the ancient weapon toward the void gate like a hooked beast. "Guardian 1 contained," Rafik said, voice shaking. "Prepare for the next," Marin said. Her voice was calm, but sweat ran down her neck. More black shapes approached, their eyes burning. The weave shifted, changing angles, preparing new patterns. The crew worked like parts of one machine. The second Guardian lunged and was caught by a new net. The third slammed into the weave and made it flicker but did not break it. On the alien flagship, the High Lord stared in disbelief. "They are caging them," he whispered. For the first time in centuries, his knees felt weak. "What are these humans?" In the command center under the Himalayas, the screens came back. Scientists gasped. Politicians covered their mouths. A general whispered, "They're winning." But Marin Cole knew it was not over. Each capture drained the hammerships. Each net weakened the weave. Her people were at their limit. One mistake and the Guardians would break free, and then Earth would burn. She turned to Rafik. "Prepare Phase 7, she said quietly. His eyes widened. "Phase 7? Captain, that's untested." "It's our only chance," she said. "If we wait for them to gather, we're finished." Outside the window, the stars shone cold and bright. The hammerships glowed like a constellation of blue fire. The Guardians circled, ancient and furious. Humanity had stepped into the Empire's sky, had fought its legends, had begun to win. But now it was standing on the edge of a greater unknown. Marin Cole put her hand on the console and whispered, "We hold, or we fall." And somewhere deep in the Empire's core worlds, a signal was racing faster than light, calling something even older than the Guardians. The war was about to change again. The stars looked calm, but every sensor screamed. Beyond the ring of hammerships, the space around the captured Guardians trembled like a drumskin. Strange ripples spread across the void, bending light and time. It was not the Guardians making them. It was something else answering the High Lord's secret signal. Inside the lead hammership, Captain Marin Cole stared at the new readings. Her hands tightened on the console. "This isn't another Guardian," she said quietly. "This is bigger." Rafik looked at her, pale. "Phase 7. She nodded once. Phase 7. On the alien flagship, the High Lord stood like a statue. His officers whispered and hissed, afraid. They had thought the Guardians were their final card. Now even they felt small. "The Deep One is coming," the High Lord murmured. "Our first weapon, our last weapon." Back on Earth, the command center flickered. Screens showed only static, then lines of alien code. Scientists tried to decode it, but the translation program kept returning the same two words, ancient hunger. Around the world, people sat in front of dead screens, waiting for any sign of what was happening. The fisherman on the coast stared at the blank sky. The farmer in the field whispered a prayer he had not said in years. Inside the hammerships, the crew felt a low vibration in their bones. Space around them grew dark, as if an invisible curtain had fallen. Then, far ahead, a shadow began to take shape. It was not a ship. It was not even a body. It was like a continent moving through the stars, covered in towers and eyes. Each eye was the size of a moon. It opened them one by one. "Contact established," Rafik whispered. "Is it alive?" Marin asked. "I think it's older than life." The Guardians went still. The captured ones stopped thrashing. The free ones bowed, their claws folding. The alien fleet fell silent. Every weapon powered down. Even the High Lord lowered his head. The Deep One had arrived. Marin Cole spoke into the calm, "All hammerships, hold formation. Begin Phase 7 on my mark." "Captain," Rafik said, "we don't know if it will even work." "We don't have a choice," she said. Phase 7 was not a weapon. It was a door. The Aegis Dawn scientists had built it as a last resort, a way to move entire star systems if Earth was ever found. It had never been tested. If it failed, the hammerships would vanish along with everything nearby. The Deep One moved closer. Its many eyes turned toward the humans. It did not speak in any language. It simply radiated a pressure that made every atom vibrate. Hulls groaned. Teeth ached. Minds trembled. Rafik whispered, "It's inside my head." "Stay with me," Marin said. "Stay with me." Back on Earth, every ocean rose a little as the hidden power grids shifted. Huge towers, long disguised as mountains or silos, extended spires into the sky. Blue light laced between them. People ran into the streets as the ground hummed. Without being told, the whole planet was feeding energy into Phase 7. Inside the hammerships, the weave brightened until it was painful to look at. The nets around the Guardians snapped tighter. The Deep One paused, sensing the change. For the first time, it hesitated. Marin's voice cut through the noise. "Mark." The weave inverted. A hole opened not in space but beneath it, a black well ringed with blue fire. The captured Guardians were dragged downward first, their black shapes twisting. The free Guardians tried to fight but were pulled as well. The alien fleet's drives died. Even the Deep One shifted, its eyes narrowing. On the alien flagship, the High Lord roared. "No. You will not take it." He slammed a claw into a console. His ship's weapons flared and fired at the hammerships, but the beams bent and fell into the hole like rain. The Deep One opened its eyes wide. All at once, every star nearby dimmed. Its body stretched, pulling against the well. Space screamed. The hammer ships shook. Core at 99%. Rafik shouted. "We can't hold it. Push it." Marin yelled. "All power. Now." On Earth, every hidden generator surged. Lights went out in cities. Oceans glowed faintly. People clutched each other as the sky pulsed blue once, twice, 3 times. Inside the weave, the Deep One's front half slid into the well. Its towers cracked. Its eyes blazed. A soundless roar shook the void. One hammer ship's hull split. Another's shields failed. Marin gritted her teeth. "Almost there." Rafik's voice cracked. "Captain, if we keep going." "Do it," she shouted. The well flared like a newborn sun. The Deep One and the remaining guardians were dragged down, twisting, shrinking, vanishing into black fire. The alien fleet was pulled too, their engines dead. The High Lord screamed one last word that no one could translate. Then, silence. The hole closed. The weave collapsed. The hammer ships drifted in an empty starfield. The alien fleet was gone. The guardians were gone. The Deep One was gone. Only a few faint blue sparks floated where the well had been. Back on Earth, screens came back to life. People saw stars again. The fisherman's phone buzzed. The farmer's radio crackled. Around the world, cheers and sobs rose at once. Inside the lead hammer ship, Marin Cole sagged against the console. "Status?" she asked. "Phase 7 complete," Rafik said hoarsely. "We're alone out here." She closed her eyes. For a moment she said nothing. Then she whispered, "Send the signal home. Tell them. We held." But far away, beyond even the Deep One's prison, something stirred. The void where they had sent the Empire was not empty. It was a place humans had never seen, a place even the Empire had forgotten. And now both enemies were inside it together. Humanity had won a battle. But what it had unleashed might shake the stars forever.